You may have noticed that on pizza boxes, whenever you buy a pizza, it'll say, "You've tried the rest, now try the best." But I actually believe in this capacitance checker. Let me show you. Popular Electronics. You can get every issue online for free as a PDF. December 1959, somebody did an article, Capacitance Leakage Tester. Here's the circuit down at the bottom. It develops 250 to 300 volts DC. Uses a neon bulb. And if you look at the way it's built in the box here, let me get this in the frame. You'll notice that's how I built it. It's in a plastic outlet box. This is what normally goes in the wall. And you can buy blanks. You can buy covers for them that have no holes in them. And this is a single pole double throw switch. You push to turn it on. And when you let up on this switch, it shorts it out. It shorts the circuit out. So these tips on the end aren't hot. The guy really put a lot of thought into it. And this is a neon indicator bulb. Now, we'll take a capacitor. First off, you can't test electrolytic capacitors. 10 microfarads, double plus and a minus on them. You can't. There's your positive there. You can't test these. This is for like non-electrolytic capacitors, like 0.01s, 0.1s, 1 microfarads, non-electrolytic, picofarads. So basically, you take the capacitor. This is a wax covered one, and you put your leads across. It's very safe to handle because there's dropping resistors in the unit. And right now that switch is shorting these two connectors out so they're not hot. Now, you press the button. Let's see what we get. Okay. Let me shield the light for a second. Notice it's blinking like that. That means the capacitor is charging up to a certain point, and then the leakage is discharging it. So it's pulsing. Let's see if we can see it. Yeah. Okay. So this is a bad 0.01. When you rebuild a radio, the 0.01s are almost always bad. Now, here, let me try a different one. This is I think a 0.1. Yeah, this is a 0.1 microfarad. All right, boom. That's on. Boom. I won't say that's shorted. It's extremely leaky. All right, and this goes to usually the plate of a tube. It's a plate bypass. This one here is a screen bypass. So if these are leaky, the set will have less gain, and it'll start smoking the resistors very slowly. And that's why when the capacitors go bad in a radio, usually you'll find some resistors that have gone up in value. Now, these are notorious for being bad. This is a 0.01. And some radios have up to 20 of these. Now, this one here, dead shorted. That's dead shorted. All right. Now, the reason these capacitors go bad is moisture gets into them. And it slowly causes the plates to conduct between each other through the moisture, and then as it does, there's like electroplating that goes on, and then the leakiness becomes more and more leakage because now the electrons take some of the metal from the plate and move it through the moisture to the other plate, and now you got a trace of metal from one plate to another. Now, I want to tell you, I also have a cap checker built in my voltometer. I have one of these things that works very well, but it will not test for high-end leakage. Now, if you recap a radio, okay, that problem's going to go away, unless you put the capacitor in backwards in electrolytic type caps situation, or you put the cap back in the wrong place. But in other words, I highly recommend building this circuit. And yes, this circuit is very dangerous if you take it in the shower with you, or you decide to urinate on it while it's plugged in. The guy really figured it out with this switch. In other words, when you let go, the output shorts out, and it's not hot anymore. And it also each time you push the button, you'll see the capacitor blink, and it even does capacitors like 270 picofarad caps. If they're leaky, the light stays on or dim. If when you press the button, if the bulb blinks real quick, real lightly, that's a good capacitor. You'll always see a good capacitor give you a blink indication. Now let me grab a capacitor real quick that's good. Okay, I'm going to take a pretty high-end capacitor. This is probably maybe a 1 farad or 10. Anyway, this is a large capacitor. Let's just say it that way. And we'll put the unit across here. Now this should really flash and then stop. Boop, charged. See, that's charging up. And that's a good capacitor. I knew it's a large value, and it's not an electrolytic, so I knew the resistors in this unit are 500K, 100K. So in other words, when you push the button, it takes a second or so for that amount of current to bring that capacitor up to charge. And while it's doing that, the light's on and it goes off. But this is a really good unit. Remember, it's December 1959, Popper Electronics. And this is a real cap checker. I know there's a unit floating around. It uses 40 volts. There's capacitors that will test good on that unit. And the person that produced that unit even says that. Now, you can go up to, on my meter, it goes up to 200 megohms. And if you can put a capacitor across it and press the button, and what'll happen is it'll let you know it's bad, but it's so much quicker to have a cap checker. Now in this case, if we go up here, if it even works on this cap, I didn't think about doing this. This is how I used to do it. I used to use an ohm meter, and then I started missing ones that are, yeah. See, this is right now. It's slowly staying at 37. It's going up in value, which it should. All right, in other words, it's reading resistance across this capacitor. So it does say this cap is bad. So if you have a meter that has a real high-end scale, you'll be able. Now remember this one was almost a dead short. We should see this resistance on this one. So it's working. All right. So you can do it the old way, but I highly recommend it. Building yourself a real capacitance checker. And I know a lot of you have those ones with the magic eye. This is so much quicker. Now, when you test with this unit, remember it's plugged in. So your radio needs to be unplugged from the wall. The antenna needs to be off it, and any ground. The radio needs to be isolated from ground. And all you need to do is lift one side of the capacitor off, and you put your clip leads on, push the button, and you'll know if the capacitor is good or not. And then as you work on the radio, you're going to notice that when a radio is more than 50 years old, almost every .01 in it is going to be bad. And that's why a lot of recappers, they don't waste their time checking each capacitor. There are people that only change what shows up as bad, but I've realized over a period of time that if you find, if the radio is over 50 years old and it's got these waxy capacitors in there, you might find one that's good, but it's going to go bad. It's preventative maintenance, and you're in there, while you're in there, you might as well get it done. But these things here, these electrolytics, these are used between like audio stages. And if this is leaky, the plates on the tube will get cherry red. And the radio does still work. And then as the plates get cherry red, the audio starts to get distorted. You turn the radio off for a while, turn it back on, and it's fine. And what this is doing is it's allowing DC to go through into the grid of the tube, and it changes the bias, and it makes the tube run hot. And then the tube goes into saturation, and then you get distortion. But these things also go down in value with age. They dry out. But when you see these or these, and then the bane of all radios, where is it hiding? It's hiding out. Disappearing objects phenomena, there it is, it's still hooked up. These are the bane. They call these stoplight domino capacitors. 0.01 is a really messed up value. Now let me turn my light over this way. And I just recapped another NC57. And if you can't get the oscillator to work, oh here let me get this lined up. So there's such a delay in the radio or in the computer that, all right, there's 3 capacitors in the BFO section, and one of them's a 0.01. If your BFO don't work, change to 0.01 first. You should have changed that anyway. Then there's a 220 picofarad and a 270 picofarad caps. Those can also be bad sometimes. They look like the domino type or the stoplight type. They don't always go bad, but suspect them before you suspect the coil. I know on the groups, they tell the person, you probably have a shorted turn in the BFO coil. You know, they'll run you in circles. But if you get the radio, you know it needs to be recapped. You know, this is the 4th radio I've done, the 4th NC57 that I've done. And I wanted to tell you that I found a wire in the radio in the wrong place, and it had inspection ink on it. And this radio has never worked correctly since the day it was made. That's why it's in such good shape. And it has 3 different type knobs on it. It's a dealer secondary model. Remember I told you they put the best model up there for $300 something with all the original knobs and everything. Then the next model has some nonsense going on, like maybe a few wrong knobs. And the radio got some scratches. And then that one there is like $150, and then the ones under $100 are usually the ones that have some serious problems, parts missing. Now in this case, this one was $100. I offered the guy $85. He took it. So I got myself a really nice NC57, got it all working, and then I decided today to go track down the BFO. And this is the 4th BFO section on an NC57 that I've done. And I did go read the conferences when I got my first one, and I was in there with my own meter checking the coil out. It wasn't the coil. It was one of the picofarad caps, the 270 picofarad or microfarad as they called it in the old days. It was leaky, and it was keeping the oscillator from coming on. And I had already changed the 0.01 in that section, so I knew it wasn't that. But it turned out just to be a capacitor that normally doesn't go bad in other radios, but these things are, 50 to 70 years old. I think that's it. All right, that's it.